So, hey, how y'all, the pilot world out there? I am Terrence Harris, and I am going to, it's going to be 2 parts. I'm going over my checkride, checkride day. I'm going to do the oral part, then I'm going to do the flight question part. So this is the oral part, so all what happened. So, like I said, my name is Terrence Harris. I took my check ride in Midland. So I actually flew from Taylor, Texas, 172, flew to Midland, and I flew there a couple of days earlier, got a hotel. First shout out to, I flew with my CFI and Blake Kramer, Jonathan Silas and Blake Kramer. They really helped me out because they was there the whole couple of days, just moving up, went down, went up, went down, drill, wake up, go to sleep, went up, went down. I mean, they really prepared me prior to that day, but was out there with them. So yeah, got there a couple of days early. Just read my notes, make sure I stay on track. Yeah, I'm gonna put a video together for that, the actual prep and all that stuff. So, but the most important thing is your IACRA, man. Make sure your IACRA form is filled out. I actually had to scramble a couple of days prior to, just to make sure it was all good, because doing your IACRA is, tedious. And I used to always hear people on these videos say, yeah, man, make sure you do your ACRA, make sure you do your ACRA. I'll never be like that and be late to do my ACRA. And how is that? Like, it was tedious. Like, I'm just, running around trying to get that figured out. And another thing, I was running around prior to going, the suction gauge of the 172 had went out. So I was calling the owner, Efren. I was calling the owner of the plane, like, hey man, can you please get this? I got my check ride, and he was able to just get that done real good. So took my thing in Midland. First, so the oral is blue. I don't have it, but I'm gonna put it somewhere here, a picture of it. But it was the oral handbook. I studied that thing, the first 3 chapters. I studied that thing, like, the questions that they ask you, like, back and forth, just studying the first 2 chapters, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, go back to chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, 1, 2, 3, just over and over. So for me, a lot of the questions in my orals came from that book, and they really not trying, the examiner is really not trying to stump you. He was really good, but I studied that book backwards and forwards, and I'm so glad I did, because a lot, like 55% of those questions that he asked me came from that book. So he asked me the maneuvering speed. I was doing a 172. He said, ask me the maneuvering speed. So a lot of this stuff, they ask you, like I said, we just cram, but I didn't know the maneuvering speeds, all of them. So I didn't know the maneuvering speeds. I'm gonna show you guys. So I printed out the manual for the 172, no, the 150 that I did, and I found everything in here. A lot of the questions came from here, the maneuvering speeds, and because we can't remember everything, but and I knew it, but it's like going in is like you have a brain fart. So he asked me that question, maneuvering speeds. He asked me the engine of the aircraft that was out there. I knew it at the time, but I said it and I was like, let me just verify it. Then I got the manual again, and like I said, I printed out every page of the manual. I had my ADs, the weight and balance of the aircraft. I had that, got the ADs and everything, but we'll get into that. But I had everything printed out, and then it turned, everything just went to just personal, You know, like before we went into before we even went into the room, I just went up to crack a joke with him. I was like, hey, you know, I just want to make sure you go get you some water, you calm and everything, because my job is not to fail you. I just want you to do your best and just give it all you got, man. Give it a good slow response. And we both started laughing. You know, I just wanted to break the ice. That's just my personality. But I just cracked the joke just to break the ice because I was nervous. So, but in this part of the exam, he just asked me personal questions, man. You know, asked me personal about my family. Asked me about my family. Asked me like why I wanted to fly. That's why I got the shirt on. And I just told him like, man, me and my wife, we just wanted to just take kids up for free. Wanted to purchase a plane, and I purchased the plane. I actually purchased a plane 2 months after I got my private pilots, and I put a video. But of the journey of that. But I purchased a 172. But I told him like we just wanted just to take kids up for free because like there's so many kids out here that maybe not even just want to fly, but I always wanted to fly, and it was the birth of my son. Like man, like, and I was actually believing he could be anything he wanted to be. And I was like, well, he always wanted to fly. Well, why don't you fly? And that's how I started flying. I told him that story. Then he told me about Young Wings, how's this organization as well that they take kids up for free. So it just turned real personal, man. Maybe that was his way of breaking the ice, but we just talked family, we just talked personal stuff for like 20 minutes, just personal, laughing, joking. He asked me how many G-forces does that plane allow. I knew it at the time. But I was like, let me just make sure. And, you know, I got the manual out again, and like, yep, that's how many G-forces this plane allows. Then we went through my logbook. So I used ForeFlight for my logbook. And this is where basically he didn't look at my ForeFlight app. He logged into iAccurate on his end. So that's why make sure your iAccurate paper and information is correct. Information is good. Make sure all that is good. Because that's how he gets your logs. Make sure you met all the requirements for your night, your cross country, your 20, your solo, and all that. So, and it's the crazy thing about it. You know how we take the oral exam. Now we take the oral exam. The oral exam, and you know the questions you miss. They can legally ask you every question on here. But we never went to this paper. Granted, I studied this paper like the back of my hand and just made sure I knew everything about this paper of all the questions I missed. But he never asked me any of this. And I know the reason why. The reason why he never asked me any of this because I came in, he said I came in so prepared. I had everything out. Like he didn't have to go searching for anything. So, and I guess the questions he was asking me, you know, I was doing okay on them. So, but he never asked me any of this. And maybe in his way, he's been doing this a long time. He kind of semi-did, but he never opened it and asked me it. So, so don't do this. Don't overtalk. For me, my personality is I'm just chill, man. I was listening to a lot of videos. They was like, just answer the question. Don't dig yourself into a bigger hole. Yeah, that is true. I started out that way, and then I started out in the beginning of the exam, but it was becoming really weird. He asked him something, I just respond, and that's becoming weird. And I just decided to be myself. Now, maybe some examiners that way, you can dig yourself in a bigger hole. I never felt arrogant and cocky, like, oh, I knew this. I just used my personality, and we just talked. It was literally just like a conversation. So we just talked, and I didn't just answer the question. I was like, you know, I was even asking him questions. Like, the question I asked him was that, like, what's the difference? But you know, I forgot what I asked him, but I was just asking him questions like, wow, I didn't know that. You know, I say that, man, I didn't know that, but man, thank you for telling me. So, you know, I just wanted to put that because a lot of people say on the dome photography, maybe you can read your examiner. That's how I read mine because it was becoming really, really weird. I was like, nah, let me just be myself. So, we went over airspaces. We went over cloud coverage. What are the requirements for airspaces? So we went over all that. We went over, you know, like airspaces in the class, Echo, Charlie, Delta, airspace, and what cloud coverage, you know, from in front of you, above, below. And we went over what requirements you need for that airspace, you know, like Charlie, you gotta have that mode, I believe mode C, transponder, and, you know, Echo, you really don't, you know, you can be VFR, you really, you know, you don't even have to make radio calls, but, so we went over all that, you know, just cloud coverage. I'm gonna show you, cause I didn't know, you know, leading up to the exam, like you just cram it. I'm gonna show you, like, what did I use and how did I, you know, kept myself with everything. So we looked over my cross country. We looked over it on my iPad, so my 4Flight app. Now, I'm gonna take a picture of this and I'm gonna put it in the descriptions. But maybe I get this way. So with my 4Flight app, he had me. This is Midland, and it's in the class Charlie. So let me see if I can get a pen. So that day, I took off on 107. So we took off and came out, and my first point was these tank forms in Midland. You'll see these tank forms, right? So matter of fact, let me get a better angle. Yeah, okay, I'll do this. Sorry guys, I'm trying to make it better for you guys. All right, so I took off here, and my first reference was these tank forms. Now I did my cross country like every 15 to 20 nautical miles. I put something. So my next came out here, and then I flew down here. It was something where I put, I think these Peak Lake, over there you'll see, I forgot what these things, it's like these tanks, I believe. Then I flew, my next point was this refinery. Then my next point was E13 right here. And my next point was this little town, Imperial, right here. And I think I also used this lake, these two in between here of the little town and that lake. So then flew down. Now this is where he had asked me a question, and I only knew this because, like I say, thanks to my CFI, and they was helping me. But you know, so I saw this town, then I flew. So I avoided so much stuff and going around this way. And the reason is because if you look at this chart, the elevation, something in here is 7,200. So I just wanted to avoid all that, because when you taking off into Midland, you're up at, you know, 3,700. But then as you fly, and I told him I didn't want to keep just going up and up and up. So when I took off, and I was like, well, I want to get to an altitude of, you know, 6,500. But I didn't want to just keep climbing and climbing and climbing, because if you fly in Midland, man, it's, you know, it's hard. The density, altitude, oh my goodness, man. Taking off with this both of us in that 150. It was hard to climb. It was just hard. So this was my flight plan, but I maneuvered because, you know, elevation, something is, you know, I followed the path of 5,520, and he was very impressed because, like, oh, you know, I maneuvered all the way around just so I won't have to, you know, climb past 7,900. So we got to KMRF. We got to KMRF. On that particular day, there was a NOTAM, and he wanted to make sure I knew what the NOTAM was, and it was a runway was closed for maintenance or something. But yeah, so basically he just got my, he told me to open up my flight plan and walk me through it. And another thing, let me get back here. And another thing, I just brought a map. I brought a map because, like I say, everything is just preparing. Sorry, guys. Everything is just, I just wanted to be over-prepared. I wanted him to see that I was over-prepared, that I was ready for everything. Because that I heard was some instructors won't even let you use iPad. So you got to know this. You know, the instructor, the examiner that you use. Some of them just want you to use the map. So I just wanted to be prepared. So I went out and I bought me a map. And when buying a map, make sure it's not expired, because that'll be a big no-no using an expired map. So I went out and bought a map, and I planned my cross country on this map as well. Well, you know, I planned my cross country on this map just because he said, hey, your iPad died, what you gonna do now? Aha! I know exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get my handy dandy map. So yeah, I planned my cross country on my map, and planned the cross country on the map on paper. And yeah, so that was the next thing. He just wanted me to see, walk me through my flight plan. So we sat down, we did some cold calls, like we, you know, say we're going into a class Delta. I used the one from me, Georgetown Tower, Cessna 17, November 7416 X-ray. Wait for them to respond. 16 X-ray, go ahead. November 16 X-ray is 10 nautical miles from the south, 10 nautical miles from the South Florida, but anyway, 10 nautical miles from the south. Requesting inbound landing. Then he would say, you know, probably November 16 X-ray. State your intentions, maybe 3 miles. You know, come in clear for inbound landing for runway 17, whatever. So basically, we just did some cold calls, like if I was calling tower, because he wanted to see if he knew that. And he started throwing some stuff out, like I don't know. We just started doing cold calls, and like it was like literally walking him through, like we was entering into airspace that we're not supposed to enter, or requesting to get into that airspace, you know. And of course, you got to say, hey, you know, information Zulu, Delta, India, whatever, to tell him you got the weather. Basically, he just vector you in, and that's what he was doing with the cold calls. We're just going back and forth. So, get some cold calls. And so, last thing, he asked me about hotspots. I had no idea and no clue what was hotspots. So basically, hotspots are, he showed me on the iPad. Basically, hotspots are these areas, taxiing way, let's say, that a lot of accidents occurs. So they put this thing called hotspots just to be aware, like, man, you about to enter a lot of accidents or runway incursions happen in this area, so just be aware. And I had no idea what hotspots was, so he actually educated me on hotspots, because he asked me what I like hot in the airplane. I didn't know. I didn't know what it was, but it was pretty much. Oh, and another thing, he said, so basically, he asked me, if you lose avionics in the air, what would you do? And shoot, my thing, you know, the correct thing to do is, hey, I'm finna land immediately. And then he was like, do you have to land ASAP? He was like, you know, and I was like, well, yes and no. Then I was thinking that, no, you don't have to land, because if you lose all your avionics, the engine is still running. So maybe if you buy airport, you can, you know, because that's what it was, you lose avionics as you're taking off. And they said, I was like, no, well, technically I can turn around and then land, because his thing, if you gotta land, you gotta land, but you always want to land around civilization, places where Uber service or a nice airport or whatever. But if you gotta land, you have to land. But in this case, I didn't have to land immediately, because you know, you lose avionics, okay? Yeah, you can't talk, and you say typically you got like 30 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes for the battery completely dies. Depends on what you lose, if you lose main power or whatever. But he say, me, I turn around and land back at the airport. I took off on. So I was like, I do the same exact thing, sir. So yeah, so that was pretty much how the oral went. It was like we was in there for like 2 hours, man. Like I say, all this happened in 2 hours. And I just want to show you how. So this is pretty much how the table was. It was this big table in the conference room. So I printed out a map of the airport. This is Midland. I had a map of the airport I was taking off to across for my cross country. Another thing, I got this from another guy on YouTube. I printed his off, man. Shout out to you, man, because I used to watch his videos a lot. He was really good. This was my my questions I missed. And this, I printed out a flight plan. I wanted him, and I filled out all this. I filled out my flight plan so he could see the flight plan. I filled out my weather briefing, just in case you say, well, what if you couldn't get radar? What if the iPad dies? Or what if you couldn't get radar service? Or whatever. I had my medical over here, all the manuals and my ADs, manuals for the plane, ADs behind it. And this is another thing that he said he was impressed with. This, I had all the logs in the book. I had the book, you know, I had the book, but I had all the logs, the ADs. I printed them off, but I just had it just in case. And I had it tabbed so he can just quickly go to, okay, where's the altimeter? Where's the maintenance? And where's the, you know, had all the logs. 100-hour inspection, transponder. This is just another part of the manual. I had my personal minimums filled out, my map, the far aim. Make sure you have your far aim and tab it, man, because I think I went to the far aim like one time. And this is what I had I was going to put in my lap. I'll put this in the next video of the flight portion of how a lot of stuff I didn't know. This was going to be in my lap, like my tab, just as my iPad. I made a little thingamajigger to flip it from my iPad.